Well, there's quite a few of y'all. There's not very many of me. I don't know. Lost the orchestra somewhere. I sure am glad to be here tonight, though, and share this evening with you. Cleveland. And without any further ado, I'm going to launch into some songs here with the one kind of asterisk, I guess, on this performance. I cut the end of this finger off today. Yeah, but we're going to see how that works out. I am a man of iron, practically a superhero. Like this guy. I was a highwayman along the coach roads I did ride, with a sword and a pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier left his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25. I am still alive. I was a sailor, born upon the tide, and with the sea I did abide. Place called Boulder on the wild Colorado, slipped and fell into the wet concrete. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. I am still around. Seems like it all goes around and round, round and round and round and round. Here we go. I'll fly a starship across the universe divide. And when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a songwriter again, or I may simply be a single drop of rain. Something will remain, and I'll be back again. I'll be back again. Yes, I will. When here we go, we'll all be back again and again and again and again and again. Yes, we will. Oh. And here we go, but we'll all be back again. Thank you so much. That song which came out in, I think it was '86, was recorded by Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, and some other guy who was hanging around there. Willie Nelson. It was an interesting journey for a song to go on, and that's my theme this evening, if you will indulge me, is that we write these songs, and then they go out and have adventures. They hang out with Mr. Sinatra. I have some bootleg tapes of the Beatles playing MacArthur Park at Abbey Road. I have a bootleg tape of Elvis singing By the Time I Get to Phoenix that nobody's ever heard. So these are all things that I didn't know anything about, but some I do. I'll try to be as brief as I can tonight. I just talked to my wife and she said, "Be brief, Jimmy. Brevity is next to godliness." Okay. But for instance, at one of my shows with Pete earlier this year, a family came up to me after the gig and they said, two wonderful boys. I have 5 sons. I have a daughter. My daughter, she's the center of the universe. My 5 sons. But this family came up to me after the show, to be brief. And the father said, "I brought my boys to see you because their mother's favorite song was Wichita Lineman." And she passed 2 years ago. And I'm looking at this kid, one 13, maybe 14, and then another little fellow, about like 9 or 10. And just for a second, I was going to break down and cry like a baby, because I lost my mom when I was 16. And so that's what your songs do. They go out, and so this evening I'm going to describe some of those journeys for you. 1986, let's go back in the time machine to 76, let's go back to 66. Let's really go back to 66. If only we could, ladies and gentlemen. The world is a mess. 1966. Would you like to ride my beautiful balloon? Would you like to glide in my beautiful balloon? We could float among the stars together, you and I. 'Cause we can fly up and away, my beautiful balloon. The world's a nicer place in my beautiful balloon. Wears a nicer face in my beautiful balloon. We could sing a song and sail along the silver sky, 'cause we can my beautiful balloon. Suspended under the twilight canopy, we'll search the clouds for a a star to guide us. By some chance you find yourself loving me, or find a cloud to hide us, keep the moon beside us. Love is waiting there in my beautiful balloon, way up in the air in my beautiful balloon. If you hold my hand, we'll chase your dreams across the sky. You know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to hit that high note. You think you can maybe help me out a little bit? For we can fly. Thank you. Up and away in my beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful. Did I say that? My great big beautiful balloon. Singing up and away, sing it with me. Up and away, up and away, up and away. Very clever that you came up with up and away like that. It sounds like something that I've heard all my life. And that's because it's something that you've heard all your life. In the 1940s, there was a radio show about Superman. And Superman would engage in some dialogue with Lois Lane, and then he would say, you know, like, I'm out of here. Up and away. They'd do the sound effects. It was Superman. Superman in the 40s gave me the idea for that song. It was strictly about balloons, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't mean prophylactic balloons. Or any of those other kinds of balloons. Some of them are not too nasty to actually talk about. But it was thought to be a drug song at the time. And I'm not going to go into a long, diatribe about that. Since it was my home state, it was Oklahoma. And it was a station in Oklahoma City that decided to take my record off the air, our record, The Fifth Dimension, because it was about drugs. Only it wasn't. That's the thing, right? So my father was a Baptist minister. My father was a Baptist minister, ex-Marine, real Marine. Spent 37 months in the South Pacific during the Second World War. Came home, became a preacher, and tried to help others all his life. He was one of he was a guiding light in the era of civil rights when we used to do joint worship services with black churches and other churches of other persuasions. And I always admired him, and he was also quite formidable. So I was afraid for him to hear about Up and Away being about drugs. So I was in California, he was in Oklahoma. He was preaching at a place called Cheyenne, not far from where Custer ambushed a bunch of Indians one morning and called it the Battle of the Washita. I've seen that battlefield. I stood up on that bluff and looked down. I could see the teepees. I could see how it would happen. And my dad was in this tiny little town, sort of trying to get over the loss of my mom. And I called him up and I said, Dad, you know, I don't want you to hear that, you know, read about this in the Daily Oklahoman, because, you know, they're talking about taking my record off the air. And I said, Dad, you know, I didn't want you to hear this from anybody else, but I said, they say it's because it's about drugs. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, son, I know you're not taking any of those drugs. And I sort of went, no, not really. And I really wasn't. I wasn't much of a drinker, and I'm not going to be phony and say I didn't smoke a joint every once in a while, but I did. I inhaled it. I enjoyed it. Hell, I had a great time. I wish I could do it again, as a matter of fact. So, but anyway, now you go to the Predator shot, and you see my dad coming out of the parsonage. He gets in his old Ford pickup, and you can see as he's getting in, he's carrying something. Zoom in. He's carrying a Bible, and under the Bible, he's carrying his 45. This doesn't look good. He drives 2.5 hours. You know how those Midwestern roads, how long some of those roads can be. It took him a long time to get to Oklahoma City, but he got there. And he went to KOMA, Coma in Oklahoma, 50,000 watts, clear channel radio. You didn't want to get your record bumped off. It was one of the hit makers in the United States. As it was sitting there in the very center of the heartland of the United States. And he went inside and sort of asked, but demanded politely, that he be able to talk to the program director, and the guy came out from the back, and he said, could I, you know, speak to you privately? He had the 45 under the Bible. And they went in to the conference room, closed the door, and everybody went, wow. And they said, it sounded like, because there was lots of gossip, and they said it sounded like the program director, like he was getting saved or something, because he kept saying, oh dear God, oh sweet Jesus, oh good Lord Almighty, you know. And they said, you know, some of them didn't like him much anyway. They said it was about time that son of a bitch got saved, you know. And so my dad came out, the program director came out, and he's saying, well, Reverend Webb, and I just want to thank you for straightening me out on that musical question. And my dad said, carry on, God bless you, and walked out. And the first song he heard when he got in his pickup was, my father kept that record from being thrown off the air in 1966. It just so happens that in 1966, Up and Away was a hit. It was a song that I had brought with me from my what should I call it, my residency, my internship at Motown Records. That was my first real professional. I had a cut, for instance, on a Supremes album called "Merry Christmas" from the Supremes, and it was a song called "My Christmas Tree," which, when you think about it, is really a brilliant title for a song about a Christmas tree. And I can remember a little bit of it because that's all there was of it. But I just so you get an idea. Oh, my Christmas tree isn't very big. In fact, it's kinda small. And it goes downhill from there. That's probably the best part of it right there. But anyway, I left Motown and I went over to Johnny Rivers Music with a bunch of kids who called themselves the Versatiles, eventually changed their name to the Fifth Dimension, under pressure because the Versatiles were thought to sound too 50s. And, you know, bands are being called, you know, all kinds of things. Moby Grape, for crying out loud. Nothing against the Grape, man. I mean, the Grape, they were cool, but all these crazy bands. I mean, even the Beatles, you're so used to hearing the Beatles. You have associations that you plug into that word, and pretty soon it sounds right. But the first time I heard it, I thought, that's a bad name for a band. That is a stinkeroo. You know, they're never going to make it. I told the guys in the jazz quartet I was playing. So at any rate, Up and Away is nominated for Song of the Year by NARAS, the Grammy Award organization, in 1967. And the awards are given away in 1968. And at the same time, because of my connection through Johnny Rivers, another song that when I walked out of Motown, they said, here, take these songs. And we're never going to do these songs, and you might as well have them. Here, you know, take this Up and Away. No one's going to do that. Here's By the Time I Get to Phoenix, never mind. Motown isn't going to do that. And they went through a list. They gave me 5 or 6 hit songs, and I just walked out with them. And one of them was By the Time I Get to Phoenix, which Johnny Rivers played for Glenn Campbell. Glenn Campbell recorded. And now, like magic, I've got 2 records on the Hot 100. Both of them moving really fast, really well. And it made me think at the time that when I was 14 years old and I was plowing a field up in the panhandle of Oklahoma and driving a IH tractor with a big old 20-foot one-way plow behind it. Some of you will know what that is. One of the things about a 20-foot one-way plow, big disc plow with lots of discs, is you can only turn it one way. That's why they call it a one-way plow. And so I'm driving along there and I'm turning one way and I'm listening to my green plastic transistor radio, and I hear this guy singing, there is someone watching your footsteps. Turn around, look at me. Someone walking behind you. Turn around, look at me. Oh, I've waited, but I'll wait forever for you. That's about as high as I can sing. Of course, Glenn can do a lot better than that, and it was Glenn. And about 2 records after that, they played Surf City. Well, we're gonna Surf City. Well, we're gonna Surf City because it's 2 to 1. Yeah, it's 2 to 1. Wait. And I had to listen twice. Oh yeah, we're gonna Surf City, gonna have some fun. Oh yeah, we're gonna Surf City because it's 2 to 1. 2 girls for every boy. Jan and Dean. Well, I turned the trailer the I turned the tractor the wrong way. Right there in the middle of the field, I busted a $20,000 plow. And I sat there, and God spoke to me and said, Jimmy, you're going to be a songwriter, and you're going to write songs for Glenn Campbell. What do you think the odds are of a 14-year-old kid making that dream come true? Think about it for a minute. Oh, by the way, there's someone watching your footsteps. Turn around, look at me. Turn Around, Look at Me was written by Jerry Capehart, and it was a big hit for Glenn, but he dropped out of sight completely. So now, again, we're back in '68, and Glenn has a hit, but by the time I get to Phoenix, believe it or not, and Wichita Lineman is climbing the charts too. And they're both nominated for Song of the Year, both songs. Well, you would say, hey, this must be like the happiest day of your life. You're just a kid, you still got like, a cow manure on your shoes, and you've got 2 songs in the best song category at the Grammys. And, but it wasn't such a good thing from my point of view. I see clearly that half the audience is going to vote for Glenn, and basically kind of the other half is going to vote for the Fifth Dimension. And somewhere in the middle, there are 2 huge songs that are threatening as well. One by John Hartford called Gentle on My Mind, which is one of the great lyrics ever written. If I could have stolen that song, I would have done it. And another one called the Billy Joe McAllister, the Tallahassee Bridge. Is that the name of it?
Ode to Billy Joe.
What is it? Ode to Billy Joe. Hell, I knew it had one of those fancy titles. But I knew Bobby, and she was a great chick. She was a great girl. She was great looking. I'm not going to make any vile, misogynistic comments about her, but she was a great looking woman. And that Jimmy Haskell arrangement, that spooky arrangement, And by the way, what did Billy Joe McAllister throw off the Tallahatchie Bridge? What? A baby, that's right. That's what I used to say. I have no idea. I don't think Bobby knew what he did and what he threw over either, but I figured that those 2 songs, they both have a shake. And so here I am, so I went to the ceremony, and like I said, I didn't drink a lot, and they had champagne there, and I'd heard a lot about champagne, from other folk. And I just said, well, I had on my velveteen Nehru jacket with my Irish lace, sort of, I don't know what kind of a shirt it was, the kind that goes all the way around your neck like that. I sort of looked like the ambassador from India. And I leaned up on the back wall of this place at the Century City Hotel in Hollywood, and they did the ceremony. And right off the bat, the Fifth Dimension started winning Grammys. Just like that. I mean, we had no idea. We didn't see this coming at all. But it didn't stop. It was Record of the Year. And then it was Best Album, Best Album of the Year. It was Best New Group. It was Best Choral Performance by a group, and Best Vocal Arrangement by the group, which was hysterical because nobody wrote it. We just started singing. We didn't have parts or anything like that. We just sang it. And but they got a Grammy for that too. And about that time, now I'm starting to feel a little left out because the Fifth Dimension, they get a Grammy for Best Album Cover. Think about that for a minute. I mean, this guy was just some street artist down in LA. We said, can you draw some castles on the front of this? You had to have castles or things like that. It was the 60s, right? And so Wayne Campbell, the street artist, he won a Grammy for Best Album Cover. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a little bit left out here because Glenn wins a Grammy for Best Male Vocal Performance on By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And by that time, I'd had about half a bottle of champagne by myself. And I was thinking it was pretty good. You know, it was almost as good as RC Cola, you know. And I put more than my share away, and I was kind of standing there when the lady walked out. She said, and now, she says, Song of the Year, she says, well, she said, you all knew it. She said, Up, Up, and Away by Jimmy Webb. Well, the place went crazy. And all of a sudden, well, I feel myself being picked up by these two enormous strong arms. One of them was Hal Blaine, the drummer. The other one was Larry Knechtel, who was my mentor on piano. And they were both members of a fabulous crew of musicians in LA that have since become famous, the Wrecking Crew. And these two guys took me up to the front because I couldn't walk at that point. And I got my deal, and I'm holding it, and I can't think of a thing to say because I really wasn't prepared. I didn't have one of those secret notes, you know, with everybody's name on it, right? And I just said, well, thank y'all, or something like that. And stumbled off the stage. These two guys, they're carrying me, and Glenn's table is like right there where this lady is sitting right here. And as I came off the stage, I almost fell down, and I put out my hand like that, and Glenn reached out and grabbed my hand. And that was when I started believing this prayer thing works, you know. What a journey those two songs had been on. They had been, by the time I get to Phoenix, had been recorded by Tony Martin, for some of you, you know, cinema fans out there who may remember the MGM musicals of yore. And they had cut it with him. They brought all the white people to me at Motown. It's okay, you can laugh. They brought all the white people to me. I was the only white kid in the building. And they treated me like I was black. So I was cool with it, okay? And I love them. I love them for what they did. They took this kid off the street and taught me how to work in a recording studio and how to write an arrangement. There's a woman I call the godmother of lost and deserted songs. And her name is Judy Collins. And she, for instance, some of the lost and deserted songs that she saved. One of them was "Clouds" by Joni Mitchell. And there were others, too many to mention. And she just had a reputation for taking songs that had been overlooked. And this song had been completely overlooked, even though, to be honest, Glenn had cut it. Glenn would, a lot of that stuff has never even come out. But So Judy came by and found this old song of Glenn's that was on an album. And she took it home, she gave it a saucer of milk, some vitamins, she brushed its hair. She said, now. And she took it over to Atlantic Records to Arif Martin, who was a hell of an arranger. I'll just leave it at that. Even though I could go on about that as well. I can go on about anything, so. Wonderful arranger. And he did a little string quartet for Judy. And this song went out and was never really played in rotation on any radio station, which means precisely that it wasn't a hit in the sense that it didn't sell enough records to really show up on the Billboard chart. I think halfway up maybe. And yet her version influenced, well, Joe Cocker for one. Joe Cocker cut it. Roberta Flack recorded it. A classic recording of it, well, I'm just going to go ahead and sing it, and then maybe if you've heard it, Josh Groban in more recent times. Eventually John Baez cut it. How to make a folk song out of a abandoned project. And it went like this. See her how she flies, golden sail across the sky, loose enough to touch, but careful if you try, though she looks as warm as gold. A harsh mistress. The moon can be so cold. Once the sun did shine, good Lord, it felt so fine. The moon, a phantom rose through the mountains and the pines, and then the darkness fell. A harsh mistress is so hard to love her. Fell out of her eyes. I fell out of her heart. I fell down on my face. I tripped and I missed my star. I fell and fell alone. The moon's a harsh mistress. The sky is made of stone. The moon's a harsh mistress. Yes, she is. She's hard, so hard to call your own. Your own. So much. Especially thank you for that holler back there. I love a good holler. So now, a journey that a song went on by itself. No promotion, no radio play to speak of. It just wanted to be heard, and it was heard, and it was recorded. And that little song taught me a lot. It taught me write what you really believe in, and say your prayers, and you'll probably come out all right. If you do it from here, if you do it from here. If you don't do it about what's currently the rage, and people used to, I'm not going to do that. And bad examples of that, for especially any children who might be here. When I went over to Johnny Rivers' music, he had a big hit on the radio, and how can you tell me how much you miss me? Anybody? Johnny Rivers. When the last time I saw you, she wouldn't even kiss him. What kind of a woman was she? That rich guy you've been seeing must have put you down. Welcome back, baby, to the poor side of town. I just have to sing that because I love it so much. Johnny Rivers wrote that. If you look on the record, you'll see Johnny Rivers and Lou Adler just take a ballpoint pen and scratch Lou's name out. It was written by Johnny Rivers. And he had this album. Well, let me put it in perspective. For 4 years, Johnny was Male Entertainer of the Year. 4 years in a row. Now, he's never gotten credit for that. He's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, by the way. And, being locals, maybe you guys, could make some noise about that if you wanted to. Because, come on, Memphis, rockin' pneumonia and the boogie woogie, Don't tell me this guy wasn't playing rock and roll. And some of the people in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame didn't even play rock and roll. Okay? I mean, like, for instance, I love Joni Mitchell. She's a personal friend, and she changed the way I looked at songwriting. She actually transformed my writing. That's how much respect is involved. But Joni didn't do any rock and roll. I mean, she was like a folkie. So there's a lot of folk singers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's not a lot of piano players, but there's 3 or 4. Anyway, Johnny Rivers should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Come on, give me a break. Today is Johnny Rivers' birthday, everybody. Let him hear it. Let him hear it. So, another interesting journey for a song to actually make, a song that was written with Glenn in mind, actually made it to him finally. But that was a long time ago, so people like to say, you know, well, what have you done lately? Well, I'm not much of a rapper. I talk my ass off. But I'm not much of a rapper, and I tend to be biased in favor of a beautiful melody and a chord structure underneath, and you know, something that, I don't know. I'm tired of talking about that. But I will say this, that, because because I'm going to do a song called Do What You Gotta Do, and it was recorded. You wouldn't expect to hear a Jimmy Webb song on the top 40 today, frankly, you wouldn't. And, or any sort of a song, much. I'm trying not to be bitter. I'm trying, because I'm not. More power to them, to everybody. I'm from the flower power generation. I don't wish bad things on people, because I do believe that comes back on you. And so I'm not saying anything was wrong with Kanye West doing the song, but my son called me up from LA one afternoon and said, Dad, you know, you got a song on the top 40. I said, I told you not to vape. I told you that. That didn't sound right to me, son. He said, Dad, he says, you're getting so old, it's embarrassing. He said, but Dad, he said, listen. He said, your song is on the radio, so you need to know that. He says, it's by Kanye West, and it's #1, and it's been nominated by NARAS for Song of the Year. And I said, okay, what's the catch? He says, you'll have to listen. So I listened. And my song, Do What You Gotta Do, which was, it wasn't a dish rag, a classic record, was Nina Simone, which was heart-rending. Go home and listen to it and see if you don't agree. But Do What You Gotta Do had been on its journey too. Nina Simone, the Four Tops, Al Wilson, Roberta Flack, Linda Ronstadt. It had been on a journey too, and now it was on a Kanye West journey. And the way that happened is they laid down my song, and then they put a rap song on top of my song. But most of it was my song, and it was a diatribe basically against Taylor Swift, saying that Kanye made her famous and needed to call her a bitch and a hoe or whatever he was trying to do, he was doing it over my song. And an interesting statistic my wife laid on me before the show is without going into there's usually a comedy bit that goes along with this. I'm leaving it out completely. Just suffice it to say that I ended up with 45% of Kanye West's famous And I don't think I have to say anything else about that. It was clearly stealing, and the permission was never requested. And my wife told me just before I came on, she said, "You got 45%," and she said the other 55% took 15 other writers and 6 producers to create.
Wow.
Not only that, I got into it with Naris because they didn't list me as one of their writers, and I wrote half the song. It shows you that songwriting has changed. The industry has changed. The modes of operating have changed. And what we value has changed. And I didn't come here to do a Robert Webb sermon on you or anything like that. But I've been on the board of directors at ASCAP for 24 years. And what we do is we fight off people who are trying to not pay songwriters for their music. That's what we do. You know, one of the first big fights, and it was before I came on the board, but the first big fight was with the mafia over jukeboxes, because they would buy one record, pay a performance fee for that record, put it on a jukebox, and people would play it 400, 500, wear it out. But these guys, the wise guys, they, Mo Dallitz and his guys, they had figured out a way to beat the system. So it started with jukeboxes. Now, it went on to a war between the disc and the CD, which the CD handily won because they stopped making the other kind. Now, what's going on? All right, we're moving from jukeboxes to different formats, we didn't notice it. It's like when you put a toad in boiling water. They say he just sort of goes to sleep or something. But all of a sudden, it was CDs. And I don't know whether you remember this, but when CDs first came out, they would put them on the ground and they would drive a truck over them to show you how resilient and wonderful this disc was, right? And then they designed the worst possible box to hold the disc, something that has caused more cursing than, I don't know, than Red Fox. Anyway, those boxes were a disaster, but the CD and the CDs. Now, the CDs that you have at home, you may have been treasuring these, because I do, and they'll never get them away from me. Even though I hear that they may be sending trucks around to the house and confiscating all the CDs now. Now that the technological boys are running our country, but the thing is, we are now facing something called AI. And this year, ASCAP had to, we had a crossroads. We came to a crossroads. ASCAP has been in existence by Jerome Kern and Verdi and Puccini. And now this was the first time that someone applied for a license, which we we operate under a consent decree. We have no choice. We have to give them a license. And yet, these licenses didn't come from real human beings. They came from AI servers that were writing songs, to wit, program it to write a Paul McCartney song. And they'll grind it out. Are you shocked? Yet? Well, when they applied, they wanted to be paid like a human being would be. We're going to pay your computer for a song. So our official position, and who knows how this is going to wash out. We rarely get into a real brawl, but this one we would get into. Our decision was that we would not pay performance royalties to songs that didn't have at least one human co-writer. Now, I don't know whether that's enough. It's certainly a step in the right direction. But this AI thing is something that threatens every craftsman in America. Anybody who does anything that's intricate. For instance, my doctor, I'm having a close relationship with the doctor. Not that close, but close. And he was saying, well, I can't remember what he was saying. So screw it. All right. Anyway, this is the song, Do What You Gotta Do. Recorded most recently by Rihanna and Ye. Kanye's name is now Ye. And don't mess it up because he gets really pissed off. Girl, I can understand how it might be kinda hard to love a guy like me. I don't blame you much for wanting to be free. I just wanted you to know I've loved you better than your own kid did. From the very start, it's my own fault for what happens to my heart. See, I've always known you'd go. I knew you'd go, but you just do what you gotta do. My wild, sweet love. It may mean I'll never kiss those sweet lips again. Pay that no mind. Find that dapple dream of yours. Come on back and see me when you can. Now I know they make you sad, make you feel so bad. Say you don't treat me like you should. Folks got ways to make you feel no good, and they've got no way to know. I've had my eyes wide open from the start. Girl, you never lied to me. The part of you they'll never see is the part you've shown to me. The part you've shown. So you just do what you gotta do. My wild, sweet love. It may mean I'll never kiss those sweet lips again. Made an old mind. Just find that dapple dream of yours. Come back gotta do. My wild sweet love, it may mean I'll never kiss those sweet lips again. Pay that no mind, find that dapple dream of yours, and come on back and see me. Come on back and see me. Why don't you come on back and see me when you can? See me when you can. My wild, sweet love. That's the Linda Ronstadt ending, by the way. Come on. Why don't you come on back and see me? That was her. So I guess I'm through trashing Kanye for the night, and time to move over to some other villains. But what I really didn't finish telling you was that the devices that you have in your house, your CD player, your turntable, and all the discs and things that go along with that, those are the last mechanical contrivances that will ever play music. Music will never be, again, something you can go to the store and buy and take home, your copy, your physical copy, and put the album cover up on the wall and be a fan and dig the music. And because now we're into the streaming of music, which has hit songwriters hard, real hard. We used to get a cent aside on a record. So if I had by the time I get to Phoenix on one side, and I had Do What You Gotta Do on the other side by Glenn, I'd get 2 cents on a $1 purchase in the record store. A wonderful federal court judge, an Irishman named Connor, Judge O'Connor, who we always loved at ASCAP, came down with a decision that paralyzed us with fear, really, because he said that there's no performance in the download. Now, what I'm doing right now is performing. So, I mean, this is a pure performance, right? And I get paid something for this, some minuscule amount. But it's a performance, and that's what we do. We collect performance royalties. So let's say we used to make a cent on a 45, on a single. And, guys were making on a hit record 80 grand. Not bad. $85,000 for if you had a platinum album, you had 6 songs on it, you were doing okay. You could buy a new car, you could get yourself a Corvette. Streaming, Spotify, the things that it's not your fault, but that's what you're listening to, most Americans. They're paying me because there's no performance right in the download. For a stream, they're paying me 0.0078 cents. Now, I don't even know how small that is. Sometimes I have trouble picturing how big the universe is, but I have not a clue how small 0.0078 cents is. I know that I'll just go on and tell you the story about Adele. Adele had the largest hit record in history. It was in the streaming area, though, in the streaming era. Millions and millions of streams. The largest record in history. And she had a picture taken in support of ASCAP and other PROs. We're not the only one. Performing Rights Organization. And she piled up all the money that she had on a little table, and she stood there with her award that said, you know, best-selling record of all time. And it was about $20,000 she made. You know, I mean, really? So they're squeezing us. They don't want us around. They don't like to deal with people. Easier to deal with machines than some, you know, moody, you know, narcissistic, you know, lovesick songwriter. You know? Girl, I heard you're getting married. Heard you're getting married. This time you're really sure, and this is the end. They say you really mean it. This guy's the one that makes you feel so safe, so sane, and so secure. And baby, if he loves you, really loves you, maybe it's the best thing. Maybe it's the best thing for you. But it's the worst that could happen. Girl, I'll never get married. I'll never get married. You know that's not my scene. But a girl like you, hang on ladies, needs to be married. I've known all along you couldn't live forever in between. And baby, if he loves you more than me, maybe it's the best thing. Maybe it's the best thing for you. It's the worst that could happen. Girl, I don't really blame you for having a dream of your own, but I really do. Girl, you know, I don't really blame you. Fasten your seatbelts. A woman like you needs a house and a home, baby. Wanna sing it with me? If he really loves you more than me, maybe. Are you there? That's just grand. It's the worst that could happen. Okay, now I'm going to answer you. The worst that could happen. And you read, it's the worst that could happen. And the worst that could happen. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I really need some background vocals for this song. So I'm going to see if you can all sing this. 'Cause I'm never, 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 never gonna get married. I'm never, 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 never gonna get married. Louder. 'Cause I'm never, 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 never. Now keep going. It's the worst that could happen. I'm never getting married. So at Christmas time, the kids, you know, I mean, they're definitely all grown up now. I have, before COVID, I had no grandchildren. After COVID, I had 5 grandchildren. You know, pretty good crop, right? And God, I didn't know you could love someone as much as I love my little girls and guys. It's the balm of aging is what it is. To have that kind of energy around you. It keeps you from getting old. It really does. I'm going to check the time. That song was on the second Fifth Dimension album, which was called Magic Garden, and it was a solo by Billy Davis. But the group were egalitarian. They had to vote on everything. There's a lesson in here somewhere. They had to vote on everything, and they had voted that they weren't going to have a lead singer. Everybody, if you ever saw them on stage, each member of the group, 5 people, each one had their own solo moment. There's a yeah, right? Okay. So Ron, he used to come out and do Pagliacci, you know, with the makeup and the mirror and all that, because he had those opera chops. Never mind, he carried a 38 in his sock, you know. But he had this wonderful operatic voice, and Billy Davis was a singer. He is a singer to this day, and they're both, Marilyn and Billy, have been on their own for years, and the group went on without them, but you may or may not know that they've had a fabulous career. Marilyn had a million-seller platinum record with One Less Bell to Answer, which is a Burt Bacharach, Hal David song. And wonderful, wonderful people. And I've known them. I've known them since I was like out of high school. So anyway, I knew in my heart that Worst That Could Happen was a hit. Sometimes you just have a feeling. And the Fifth Dimension couldn't agree on a single. It took them a year to pick a single. And it was called The Girls Song. And it was actually a total homage, but it was an undisguised ripoff of a Hal David and Burt Bacharach. It was like, yeah, I can write that shit, you know. And meanwhile, the group's dying and the album's dying. And I said, why don't you guys put out Worst That Could Happen? No, they didn't want to do it. So Wes Farrell came along. He said, I'll cut that song for you. He said, I got a guy named Johnny Maestro. Remember? 16 candles make a lovely glow. Remember that? I don't know what you guys think of when you hear that. I sort of picture the back seat of a 1963 Chevy Impala, red interior. Anyway, Wes went out and cut a hit with Johnny Maestro on the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's how that happened. That's that song's journey, right? And now we stand at the crossroads in pop music, that the kind of paradox, if you will, of 60s and early 70s music was that there were two kinds of music commingling on the pop chart. So there was, for instance, in large, writ large, okay, there was Mr. Frank Sinatra, who I refer to as Mr. Sinatra. Mr. Sinatra had a hit called Start Spreading the News, you know. And at the same time, the Beatles were on the charts. At the same time, there were groups from Haight-Ashbury on the chart. There were British groups all over the place. And there was a traditional group. Tony Bennett still got hits. Barbra Streisand I had cuts with all of them. I'm probably, I don't know, I guess this is bragging a little bit, but I'm probably the last living songwriter who can say I wrote a song for Rosemary Clooney. She sang it in a show called ER, and I don't know how she got on that show. Some sort of, maybe it was that nepotism thing. But she was nominated for an Emmy, and she played an Alzheimer's patient. The only thing she could remember was my song. Love that kind of coverage. And yeah, I'm standing at this crossroads, and I'm going, what I really set out to do was play rock and roll. I can play rock and roll. I can do Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard. I'm not going to do it because I'm too old to do it, and it hurt, and I've got a hurt finger. And I'm not going to make it any worse, but I can. I'm standing there wanting to play rock and roll and be accepted by a group of people who think that I'm an old man who writes songs for Tony Bennett and Barbra Streisand. So I had to wage this campaign of cutting my own records, which didn't do very well, but at least they were my songs, and they were the way I wanted to cut them. To date, I think I've done 10. I'm getting ready to do one more, and I think that's it. But the lovely thing is that so many of my songs were picked up by other artists off of my records. I just used to call them the world's most expensive demos. The one I did with Linda Ronstadt cost $600,000. That's a lot of money for a demo, folks. But one day, that promised land where David Crosby and Graham Nash lived, all the guys who used to live in Laurel Canyon, except I used to live in Laurel Canyon. But I couldn't be in that group, and I was told that one of the reasons why was because I'd played Vegas with Connie Stevens, who was a dear woman. I loved her so much. She gave me equal billing. Connie Stevens, Jimmy Webb, Wilbur Clark's DI, Desert Inn, one of the 5 original casinos. And when I was playing it, Howard Hughes bought it because they wanted him to change rooms. Anyhow, let's don't get lost in Lost Vegas. But Vegas was a hell of a town. When these guys were in charge of things, you know what I mean? Breakfast for $1. Well, one day the phone rang and the curse was lifted. It was Artie Garfunkel. Now, Simon and Garfunkel broke up. And they were my favorite group. I almost had a nervous breakdown over it. And I started thinking, well, Paul, he writes all the songs. And so that means Artie's going to be needing some songs. This could work out. And I get this call from San Francisco. Artie wants to get back in the record business. The films didn't work out, but just to be fair, Artie did a couple of really great movies. Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson. He was also in Catch-22, if you guys ever saw that, the Joseph Heller book. And some other things. He worked with Nick Rogue and some of the, art film type of things. But it, frankly, had not panned out the way he wanted. So what he really wanted to do was get back with Paul. Because Paul had just cut 3 albums in a row by himself that went to #1. He said, Jimmy, I got to have a song. He says, I need a hit bad. And so I went up to Russian Hill, San Francisco, where he was with Roy Halley, and I took a briefcase full of songs. And I started playing. I played everything, all my new ones, all my old ones. And then, I was just like, and he was like, he would stand by the piano like this. He had a beautiful nose. And he had this golden, curly hair. He sort of looked like Dionysus or something like that. For those of you who know your Greek mythology. He had that nobility about him. And he still does, not quite as young. He's not the man who walked around the world anymore, but Artie walked around the world. In fact, he did. So I'm playing everything, and he said, Jim, he said, do you have something? I look over in my song bag, and I'm going, well, I got a couple of greens and I got a blue in there, but I don't think I've got any yellow. I'm a little short on yellow in my catalog. Up and Away's yellow, sure. But anyway, I said, well, there's one song that I wrote for this English girl, and when I wrote it for her, I was so in love with her that I thought I was going to die of love. This song for her, and she said, well, I don't know. She said, is it silly? Is it a funny song? No, it wasn't a funny song. It was this song. They come too fast, they come too fast, and they pass so slow. I love you, and it's really all I know. It seems that's all I know. I love you, and it's all I So all of a sudden, I was allowed to play with the other kids. And you can see that I really did play with the other kids. If you look at my albums, you'll see that I did more than one song with David Crosby and Graham Nash. Michael McDonald sang on some records of mine. Vince Gill, Billy Joel. You know, I did a duet with Carly Simon once. The last recording of Linda Ronstadt's voice is a duet on an album I did down in Nashville called Still Within the Sound of My Voice, which was secretly dedicated to her. Not that there was any big secret about it, I just didn't want to make a big deal out of it. But for the people who had heard her record of Still Within the Sound of My Voice, which I'm not going to attempt here because I'm afraid I might hurt myself. She was one of the only people who could sing that thing all the way through because it was so high. Now, why don't I have the right page? It's on the floor. That's why. Okay, so did you folks enjoy young Pete Mancini tonight? Pete's going to come back out and help me with a couple of things. Hi, Pete. You know, the thing I like about Pete is he writes songs, real songs, you know, that have a middle and end, some chords, some, yeah, 2 or 3. No, I think you have about 10 or 12. But you've got chords and melodies, and you can sing. I mean, hell, you got it made, you know. The biggest song in my catalog is not the longest song in my catalog, but it is a song that I wrote especially for Glenn. And I have written in my career very few songs for artists because every time I do it, they turn it down. Every time. Dolly Parton, no. one for Willie Nelson. I was sure I had it. Should have nailed it. No. In spite of that, when Glenn called me after By the Time I Get to Phoenix and said, you know, me and Al Valori were down here at Western 3 and we're going through all these cassettes, and he says, all this stuff is just a bunch of crap, you know. And he says, you know, I'm getting disgusted, and he said, I'm just going to ask you flat out. He says, can you write me a follow-up to By the Time I Get to Phoenix? And I said, well, Glenn, I said, you know, I've been trying to get away from the town thing, you know. I don't want to be known as the guy who writes the town songs, you know. And he says, well, that's kind of disappointing. He said, but he said, could you make it geographical? And I thought, well, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could make it geographical. For the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wires, can hear you through the wires. Wichita line man is still on the line. No, I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. Snows that stretch down south won't ever send the strain. And I need you more than I want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita still on the line. For all time, and the Wichita man is still on the line. Glenn was a giant. We knew each other for 50 years. From that first moment when I stepped off the dais at the Naris Awards and touched his hand, it was like some force that just bonded us together. Musically, politically, we weren't on the same side. I'm a Democrat. It's okay. And the thing is, I don't want to fight with anybody over it. I'm a Democrat. He was a Republican. That's good. Let's hear it for the Republicans too. The thing is that I think that Glenn and I were a sort of living example of how you can disagree with someone fundamentally, say, about religion, or which, to tell you the truth, I wasn't that hot on religion after being a Baptist preacher's son. Sort of like when you get to peek behind the curtain, you realize, oh, this is kind of like show business, But that's another story. He used to love to record Jimmy Webb songs. That's all he wanted to do. And it got him in trouble a couple of times because he was almost too loyal to me. But I felt the same way about him. And in 2012, he and I were playing a concert. It might have been around here somewhere, but we were playing a symphonic concert. We used to go out and do symphonies. And I'd play the piano. It'd be like me and Pete, except there'd be an orchestra as big as y'all, right? And we'd done one of those. It was one of those glorious nights, and he was on. He was so perfect. And we stepped behind the fly curtain right here, and the audience was going crazy. And so we went out and we did something that we'd worked up, and we left. We came back to this little, very close space backstage, almost face to face. And the audience they're louder than ever. They're stomping and raising them. And I said, we don't have another encore, do we? And he said, well, we could do America. And I said, yeah, I guess we could do that. And he said, by the way, he said, did you write Wichita Lineman? And from there on, Laura and I, my beloved, she and I became part of the Alzheimer experience, which went on for several years. And the amazing thing was that Glenn retained his faculty for playing the guitar and singing almost to the very end. And there were medical professionals who would come to that goodbye tour just to see for themselves that he was playing and singing this show, because he had stage 4 Alzheimer's. And he could still sing Wichita Lineman, and he could play the guitar, he'd play like shred the guitar. Glenn was like maybe the best ever, I don't know. Some people would agree with me. Vince Gill probably would. He used to do these big shows in Vegas, and he'd always close with MacArthur Park because it has a part that Pete's gonna do. He's been practicing. I'm sorry. He's been doing a great job, guys. You'll see in just a second. So I get up one morning, and it's my son Justin calling me from LA again. And he says, Dad, you know, he said, your song's in the new, you know, it's in Beetlejuice. And I said, so you're still vaping, son? He said, Dad, no, he said, he said, it's all through it. He said, Richard Harris's version and Donna Summer's version is the end title, and they use it all the way through. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good run for MacArthur Park, you know. It's been on Broadway. It was in Bette Midler's show, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It was recorded by Weird Al Yankovic under the nom de plume of Jurassic Park, right? Thank you, Pete. At the end of Jurassic Park, it was a video, and at the end of Jurassic Park, a Tyrannosaurus Rex eats Barney. Ah, you forgot about Barney, didn't you? Well, that's what happened to him. He was eaten by a T-Rex. Plus, MacArthur Park was recorded by Don Novello, who was the Vatican correspondent on Saturday Night Live, in an Italian accent with this, you know, the whole thing, the cassette. And when he got to the end, MacArthur Park is a wall of green icing was generated by some special effects that pushed across the stage, and he's sort of like going, oh no, you know. In an airplane. I'm glad you liked that, because I'm glad you got the picture. You got the picture, you know. And in Airplane 2, there's an elevator that holds 100 people, and it's an actual elevator that was at the LA airport. I don't know whether it's still there, but it was huge. It would hold a whole plane load of people. And in Airplane 2, there's a shot of this big elevator opening up, and 100 people run out screaming, holding their ears like this. And the track is Montavani's string orchestra playing MacArthur Park. When Montavani is playing your music on an elevator, you know you've been around for a while. So anyway, we're gonna do a little MacArthur Park, and we'll try not to keep you too much longer, because I've been up here. I'm over, but. Recall the yellow cotton dress, it was foaming like a wave on the ground around her knees. The birds like tender babies in your hands, and the playing checkers and Park is melting in the dark, all the sweet green icing flowing down. Someone left the cake out in the rain, and I don't think that I can take it. It took so long to bake it in. I'll never have that recipe process of leaving when I came back. You can go ahead and leave. It's all right. It's okay. I just can't resist saying goodnight with a song that was recorded by Mr. Sinatra. I called him Mr. Sinatra when I was a teenager because he was Mr. Sinatra, you know. And then in my 20s, I called him Mr. Sinatra because I didn't want to end up in a dumpster up on the Pelham. Then when I was in my 30s, I was introducing my kids to him. And so, of course, I introduced him as Mr. Sinatra. But I knew him pretty well, and I could go into that. I could reminisce about, because we saw each other quite a bit, and he ended up doing, well, I think 4 songs of mine, which isn't bad. And I got a shout out on a live album. He said, "This is by that great kid, Jimmy Webb." He always called me kid, anyway. I remember the day that I played this for him, and he talked about carrying the big torch. And then he talked about this woman who had left his life a smoldering cinder, you know. But how much he loved her. It was mental illness. It was, you know, that kind of love is, that's that kind of take your shotgun out and go kill somebody love, you know. Jealousy and I'm glad all that's over. No, dear, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I'm so in love with my wife. I'm so happy with her. I have to tell you that. Okay? I have a feeling that Mr. Sinatra, however, recorded this song about someone from North Carolina, which is where I'm going, named Ava. This time we almost made it. The pieces fit. Didn't we? This This time we almost made some sense of it. Didn't we, girl? This time we had the answer right here in our hands. Then I touched it and it had turned to sand. This time we almost sang our song in tune. Didn't we, girl? This time we almost made it to the moon. Didn't we, girl? This time we almost made our poem right. This time we almost made it. That long, hard climb. Didn't we almost make it this time? This time we almost made our poem rhyme. This time we almost made that long, hard climb. Didn't we almost make it? Didn't we almost take it, baby? Didn't we almost make it this And then Mr. Sinatra always added,